What's up, everybody? We are back again. It's Tuesday night, and this is the Trading Nomadic show here with Benzinga. I've got a few tickers I wanted to go over quick. A couple we discussed last week, but if you guys do have anything you want me to take a look at, go ahead and drop them in the ticker, or drop the ticker in the chat. Hit the like for me if you can, just so we could get more people behind us here. But I'm going to start off real quick with Bitcoin. Bitcoin's one we talked about last week, and the tides have really turned here from where we were at last week. So I'm just going to go over this one real quick. And I think last week when we talked, we were up in this area here. We pointed out a potential 3 rising valley pattern. You got 3 higher lows making higher highs. We were coming up right in here, nice demand line, off the PCZ of this cipher pattern. And then we got the bombshell dropped on us. It's when Elon Musk announced that Tesla is no longer accepting payments via Bitcoin. And not that anyone was actually paying for Teslas with Bitcoin at the time. But it was almost instantaneously. You got a lot of new people in the market, a lot of people as well that follow Elon Musk and the things that he talks about on his Twitter. And it showed. I mean, it's not just, all of this selling pressure that came into the market from that tweet. I mean, it's not all direct. You've got people, with high leverage trades that get liquidated. You get people stopped out of trades. If you were following your stop losses underneath these swing lows that we were putting in, which very well a lot of people could have been doing, trying to be safe in a market that's been kind of up and down, lackluster, at least as far as Bitcoin's been concerned. You kind of get this waterfall effect, between leverage, between stop losses, between people worried about the market. It's just, like I said, it's a waterfall effect. And it hasn't changed my stance on Bitcoin whatsoever. You've got this news, this price action coming out at the same time that Coinbase has announced that they are trying to raise, I believe it was $1.2 billion. And more than likely, it's speculation, but I wouldn't be surprised if Coinbase was raising that money to put into the Bitcoin market. At the time of them going public, they announced they had only somehow over the years acquired 4,000 Bitcoin being held by their institution. And with the price down, I think we're down just about, from our highs, I think like 35%, which is not atypical for Bitcoin, even during a bull run. It's actually quite typical. But with us being down 35% from that 64,500 zone, this is going to be a buying opportunity for these institutions. There's a couple banks that have been kind of waiting on the sideline. You've got the ETFs that are being launched, possibly being launched later this year. So that's going to put the Bitcoin market in a really good place for anybody who might have felt that they missed the boat on the way up on this this run we've been on for the last year. So I think once we do find our footing, I've got this zone, this is the same zone that we've had on this chart for weeks. This old swing high from January 7th, January 8th, it held. And the last few days, over the last week, that's kind of the target. I haven't ruled it out for a while, as once we started coming down drastically like this, even with this initial reaction up, when we broke this resistance zone from January and in February, it never got back tested, right? And that's something I always talk about on this stream. You know, when you break an old resistance, generally what you want to see is you want to see the price action break through, come back down, and give a test just to confirm that the old resistance is now support. At the time we were in, you know, we had started this massive run, and it just never got the chance to come back down and confirm that it was still support. And, you know, the current price action that we're looking at with Bitcoin, we are back right down on top of that. We have hit, once again, not once, but twice, hit that zone. And we're kind of, you know, I'm still very risk off until we get some moves to the upside with Bitcoin, right? I've got, you know, a few friends I've talked to that they're not totally convinced that this is going to hold. And like I said, I'm risk off. I'm not taking any wild chances just yet. I do want to see some confirmation. What we do have is, if you look, I'm on a 4-hour chart right now. You've got this negative momentum waning rather than building. And at the same time, on the price action here, you do have, when you're making these divergence lines, you want to go with the candle close. So you've got lower lows on the price. And if you look down here at the negative momentum, you are, you know, it's waning. It's starting to move back towards the positive zone here. And you do have the RSI slowly trying to make its way off the bottom, out of this oversold area. But again, the same thing goes with the altcoins. You know, until they're going to pump anytime Bitcoin starts to recover. We did get a little relief rally. I think that was yesterday. Yeah, we started making some progress, but it did get rejected at this double top here at 45,700, and we came back down, and it's kind of in limbo right now. I wouldn't consider it something tradable yet, because we did get some positive momentum after this divergence here, but it was pathetic. You know, you haven't seen that real confirmation. You know, if you take a look at the volume at both of these lows, you do have some really, really intense volume, the likes of which you have not seen for, I mean, unless I'm missing, it looks like back here in January or December, we haven't seen volume like that, especially positive volume coming in. ADA, I'll take a look at that one. NKN, that's one I've actually covered before. I could take a look at both of those real quick. OPT, I'm not familiar with. Is that a crypto? Or is that a stock? Let me pull up ADA here real quick, since I got a couple of you guys in the chat wanting to take a look at it. And ADA, it's been one of the ones that's been holding up a little bit better than the rest of the market. ADA is one I do hold a position in. I do like Cardano. I've liked it for some time, and it's finally started to make some serious moves. We brought up the Bitcoin pair last week, which I think is the instigation to a lot of these big moves we've been seeing. And you also have to keep in mind with the altcoins, if they're gaining strength against the Bitcoin pairs, when Bitcoin does recover, that's when you're going to see the massive moves coming from these. Litecoin is another one we talked about that I'm still keeping an eye on. But as far as ADA, this chart's a little bit scuffed up here. So I'm looking at right now, we are making some lower lows. We do have negative momentum. It looks like it's trying to start building again here on the 4-hour. And just looking at, you know, we've got our previous resistance here. We did break above that. We sprung above it. And now, just like I was talking about before, we very well might be coming back down just to confirm what was old resistance is new support. Let me see if we could get an edge. On the daily here on ADA, same thing. We've got the positive momentum waning a little bit here to the downside, which kind of confirms what we were just talking about on the 4-hour. You know, if we see ADA come back down to this 193 zone, I think that's going to be, we've got the candle close at 193, and then let's see, we've also got this wick high from May 13th that we're kind of sitting on top of right now. This would kind of be the area I would watch, the 193, and unless we start to make a recovery from 197. But again, it's real tough expecting some of these altcoin plays to really make progress, to really get feet, with Bitcoin kind of indecisive. You know, you could have a beautiful chart with the altcoins. If Bitcoin decides it wants to drop a couple percent, they're not going to hold up. Some of them are doing better. Some of them have really been, you know, shining, like Matic. Matic's one that we've been talking about since about 55 cents. That's really holding its own compared to Bitcoin. So ADA, I'd really like to see either, you know, this negative momentum start waning and move to the upside, or some type of rebound from this zone here above 193. Under 193, I would personally start to get a little bit worried, but I wouldn't be surprised if we come back down and test that. What was the next one here? NKN, I believe I still have a chart for this one. Got wrecked, but it's one that I like because this formation you're seeing, right? We got this huge impulse up. I think we had a playback here early April on this one too. But what this looks like to me is textbook Wyckoff reaccumulation, right? It's a formation that you see. It's this sideways action here. You come up, you test the top of the zone, you just, it's up and down, straight up, straight down, and it's an accumulation structure. You know, you had this huge run up. You know, the buyers lost control, sellers took over, and right now it's back down. You see on the daily here. You know, you see this zone right back here, April 5th. You know, you got a couple bottoms here, a couple tops, candle close on the daily, and it looks like that's the zone that we're trying to hold. And this is an area, if you're looking for a bounce, this is an area that you could surely make a bounce from. But you do want to get that confirmation. We did fall a little bit below this set of bottoms here, but we have regained that level at about 52 cents. And the negative momentum on the daily here not only shows divergence, bullish divergence, with you got your candle close here and a lower candle close here. At the same time, you're making less. The level of negative momentum is waning to the upside, which gives you bullish divergence. They're moving in opposite directions. And the same thing here on the RSI. You did get a little bit of a bounce down here at about 32, 33, but it's kind of moving sideways. So I would keep an eye on this one, because I do, especially, it's a lot more distinct. This reaccumulation pattern kind of pushing it, saying it's got this rounding bottom accumulation thing going on. But if we do start making, as you can see, some barely, but we are making some higher lows on this asset. And if it holds this zone, I would expect, looking at price action correlation in the past, we put in this top here, straight down to the bottom of the zone. At the bottom of the zone, you kind of got this almost double bottom here, and it's straight up. From up here, straight down, straight up. We're kind of bouncing, range bound at the moment. What I do kind of like about NKN here, though, is it almost looks, we might have some kind of XABCD thing going on here. Yeah, I mean, it's got looks like a bat. I mean, that's a real long C to D leg here. But if we recover from here, I would definitely be watching 88 cents, top of the zone. Price action correlation says that would be an area we're going to retest. You do kind of have this choppy zone here, and right about the middle of the range. You can see, looking at this volume shelf too, this might be an area that profits are taken. But if this asset's really starting to see a momentum switch, if it's starting to see a momentum switch off the confirmed support here, on the 4-hour, RSI looks nice. You kind of got this complex M formation. When dealing with harmonics, that's something that could really be looked at as a positive indicator of potential upside after a momentum shifting structure like that. So NKN, you mentioned they were throwing that one out at Elon Musk. If it gets some hype behind it, that could very well play into your argument for this asset as well. ADA, let me see. Green positive. What is the copper ticker for that one? I'm not familiar with that one. Gold and silver are doing really well. We talked about that last week. And the crypto OPT, if I can bring it up on TradingView, I'd be happy to take a look at it here. So that one's on Uniswap. It does look like I've got a chart here, kind of for hit BTC. There's not a ton I could do. Not a ton I could do on this one. This is real choppy. If it's a Uniswap token, it's not going to be something that is easily. It doesn't follow TA as nice as some of the other assets. But it just throwing it out there, it does look like you are making some higher lows. On the daily here, I'm looking at, let me see what the 4-hour looks like. Yeah, I mean, it's nothing standing out to me that says up right now, right? Yeah, I mean, on the 4-hour and the daily, I would really want to see some kind of, you got this argument for Class C bullish divergence, but it's really weak. Yeah, I mean, this isn't something that I would really run after. I'm not sure. I don't know much about the project. I don't know anything about this asset, but just looking at the chart, if it keeps making higher highs, you could very well, you see these large spikes now and then after confirmed support. That very well could be what you're trying to do with this asset here. You sprung up above, you came back down, you tested support, you kind of got a relief rally back up, and it's very up and down. It's not something I would put money into, honestly. But that's just my style of trading. And especially, you kind of got this positive momentum coming in on the 4-hour and the daily with just real lackluster performance, kind of indecision type stuff. if it starts making higher, if it continues to make higher lows, I mean, it could very well do one of these things again. That's just not something I look for in an asset, you know, with my trading strategy specifically. Intel, I could pop that one up. Let me see. Let me pop up Intel here quick. I like Intel on the daily chart here, because what you got, it looks like since the end of April, you've just slowly been losing this negative momentum, this negative pull on the asset. As far as if we're looking at horizontal support and resistance, you know, you kind of right back down. You've got multiple times this zone right here at about $53 has been respected as resistance and again as support. So as long as it holds up above 53.40, you know, this very well could be an inflection point where Intel begins to start to make moves to the upside. If you look back here in December, you know, this huge impulse, this huge run up till the end of January, you're springing over that resistance. You had a candle close right in that zone 2, sprung above it, came back down, tested it as support, which is good. And then you got this nice rally from that. And you know, a lot of this could be attributed to, you know, the market hasn't been great. You know, there's been a lot of rotation. But again, like I said, if we hold this zone, it looks like it was tested again as support. You did kind of get this little rally the last few days. But today you got this big old bearish engulfing candle coming back down. But I do like the MACD here. The RSI went from being oversold to, it looks like it's trying to get its feet, catch some feet again. I don't think either of those are phrases. You know what I mean? It's trying to make some moves here. On the 4-hour chart, I think you could almost argue, if we were looking for a harmonic, you almost got, thought it might have been a shark here, but you do got this XABCD formation here after a nice swing high and correction. So looking at the 4-hour, if this was a traditional harmonic, a lot of times what you'll get is you'll get this initial reaction and you'll come back down, whether it's back down to the base or maybe this high over here. Might come back down and test it just to confirm support. And if we're looking at the 4-hour MACD here on Intel, you do have this positive momentum waning a little bit. It does not look like you have, you almost got bearish divergence here between these. Oh, island to island, you actually are right. But the 4-hour here does give you a further argument. Same thing with the RSI coming down like this. I would personally, if this was something I was trying to take a trade in, I would either wait to make another higher high on Intel here, or wait for, ideally, you'd really like to see a confirmation low off of this pattern completion zone. First, you get the reaction, come back down, and you retest support before trying to make some of these higher highs. And if I was targeting on Intel, I would probably look between this B zone right here, where you got the impulse up, come back down, tested support, and made this other top in the same zone here. if I was looking for the upside, I would look at that 61 zone, as high as, 63. Somewhere up in here, you might see some profits being taken. But ultimately, if this, is validated, once you've got your support, you're probably going to come back up and test some of these higher highs, as high up as, looks like we got candle close at about 67.59. But I'm a little bit more conservative with my targets. I like this wick high over here. And looking at this volume shelf, it does look like we did have some respect given to this zone. So if I was going to target on Intel, I would probably take some profits at that zone between 61 and 63 personally. Blaze Natural, I brought up NKN. I can run through it real quick after I get to a couple of these other assets we were looking at here. ETH, BlackBerry, I could get both of those. ETH I do have up. And same thing, ETH is no different than, the rest of the crypto market, man. When Bitcoin throws a tantrum, when you get that down pressure, when you get the corrections, ETH is going to have a hard time, just like anything else. It has kind of pulled away from, the direct correlation. I mean, obviously we've seen ETH make massive runs the last few months, while Bitcoin's kind of been less than exciting. If I was looking here at ETH, we are holding this zone here at about 3,100. We've got two bottoms, two wick lows, right about at that zone. We got this same relief that Bitcoin got, when Bitcoin made some move to the upside yesterday. A lot of these assets, they followed along. But ETH is one I do like long term. And looking at the 4 hour, it does look like you had, between these two histogram islands, you've got less negative momentum while the price was still making lower lows, which is bullish divergence. Not only that, but it is at a potential reversal area, right, with ETH. So I do like this zone. As long as it holds up above 31, I like it. Kind of, we're on the 4 hour here. It kind of looks like we've got this nice double bottom candle close here. Negative momentum starting to come back in. You got this little baby histogram island on the MACD, which shows you that, sellers came in and just really, they didn't do much. It's real pathetic. Some positive momentum coming in, but at the same time, with Bitcoin kind of hanging in the balance, that might be what we're waiting for. You might have investors waiting on the sidelines, ready to take some of these positions when Bitcoin starts to recover. On the daily doesn't help you out with ETH. I do like, this potential double bottom here. Not much left. I was going to say, there's a chance it almost engulfed this candle. That would have been beautiful. But if you look down here at the oscillators on ETH, you're still building negative momentum. It looks like it's starting to slow down a little bit. The RSI is not oversold at the moment. That would be ideal. If you start to get one of these daily candles on Ethereum start to wane, the negative momentum starts making some higher lows here. At the same time, getting a double bottom here on the RSI in this oversold territory, that could be really bullish. But again, Bitcoin's really what I'm watching, before I start to take any type of serious trades. I dollar cost average on some of these, the projects that I do expect to be around that I do expect to eventually start to make some higher highs. Ethereum's one of them. You know, when you're indecisive like this, when Bitcoin's kind of hanging on, teetering that support zone, you know, you get a lot of indecision, and that's ultimately what I'm waiting for. It pulls the strings in this market. It always has. And as far as Ethereum, as long as it stays above 31, I think that's bullish. I do like it above that zone. But again, if we end up, you know, getting some more lows on Bitcoin, it's going to be reflected across the market. Which if you play your strategy right, you know, sometimes that could really work out for you. You know, as long as you get out of your losing trades when they're happening, when Bitcoin dumps, that it always ends up bringing a great opportunity for some of the altcoins to not only, you know, get substantial retraces off their highs, but a lot of times you'll get nice harmonics forming. And with Ethereum, you could kind of, the context isn't great, but you know, you almost got some shark stuff going on here. You know, you got your initial reaction, you come back down. You could call that a confirmation low. I would have liked to see a candle close down in this area. And, you know, looking at this 4-hour chart again on Ethereum, I wouldn't rule it out. I wouldn't rule out Ethereum coming back down and testing this zone, but you are making some higher lows. And until you stop doing that, I mean, that's bullish for Ethereum. But if you were taking a position on Ethereum, I wouldn't rule out another test of this zone. And that's where dollar cost averaging would come into play. You add a little bit at a time until you do get the confirmation you're looking for. It takes that psychological thing out of your head, you know, the fear of missing out. Oh, well, what if it skyrockets overnight? Well, just, you know, there's nothing wrong with taking a trade in steps. As long as you still, you know, if Ethereum dropped below this zone, I'd want to get out of it. Because not because I don't believe in the project, but I do think once you break a critical support line like this, you're probably going to see lower lows. And what I would do with a trade like that, even if I was dollar cost averaging down to that zone, what I would probably do is, as I get stopped out or close this position, I would identify the next zone down that, you know, could be a potential turnaround zone for Ethereum, or with any asset really. BlackBerry, I didn't forget about you, Dario. Pull up that one quick. And we are on the 4-hour chart here with BlackBerry, which I like this level that we're at. This isn't one that I've kept up with, but if you, I'm on the daily chart now. So we got this candle close over here back in December that was respected as resistance, not once, but a few times. Again, you know, you ended up correcting down a little bit. You got this beautiful engulfing candle and this giant run. I'm assuming this is the Wall Street bet stuff. When all that stuff was going on, I'm assuming that's what all this was for. But since then, you know, you've got this deep retrace right back down. Again, like we talked about before, you get the spring and you come back down to retest old resistance as new support. And right now on the daily chart here, it looks nice because you are, if we look down here at the MACD, I'm sorry, my screen's all over the place today. But right in this zone, you've got, you're still making lower lows. And then you look down here in the MACD, your negative momentum is waning, which would, that's bullish divergence. That's classic bullish divergence. And that's an indicator that the momentum coming to the downside is changing. Your sellers are losing control and your buyers are coming in. But at the same time, in the same respect, you are still making some lower lows here, but you've broken above that old resistance, which is good. As long as you stay above 837, if you wanted to be a little bit loose with the zone, above 770 is the next candle close over on this side. That would be the zone I would watch personally for BlackBerry. And if you do start to make a recovery off of old resistance, we could do a fib retracement off of this wick down to our lowest low here. And I would as a first target, you do kind of have a couple highs here at about $12. But if I was looking at a target, I would at least look at this 236 fib at 1268, or coming over here at this candle close towards the end of January. That could be a place you could take some profits at. Whether you're going to see these zones, that's hard to say, because of this was momentum driven, possibly a short squeeze. But if you want to be conservative, I think you got a lot of organic volume in this zone down here up to about 1225. Actually, I would probably, I would definitely consider taking a little bit of profits at this high. Not once, but twice. It was respected with a candle close on the daily chart. And if you look at the volume profile over here, it's very blocky above that zone. You want to see some organic volume, not this crazy stuff up there. If we open up the 4-hour chart, you're starting to get into overbought territory on the RSI. Same thing with the MACD. You've got the positive momentum waning a little bit here. Not to say that couldn't turn around, but it's something to keep in mind. Maybe we come back down and retest that 830 zone as support before going higher. Give time for these oscillators to reset a little bit. But you kind of got, I talked about it earlier, you kind of got this Wyckoff reaccumulation structure going on here. After this huge run up and sell off, now you kind of slowly reaccumulating. And obviously, if you've got this rounding bottom formation, it's very zone bound, range bound, I'm sorry, zone bound. And look at the price action correlation, same. You came back down here once you found support straight up to test that zone that we talked about at 1213, and then straight back down. So if we start to make some higher lows here, and again some higher highs, breaking this supply line, it does look like we have broken this little supply line we had going on here. To me, that's a good sign. Not only are we above old resistance, we broke this supply line, we got the rounding bottom coming up. It's just you don't have a lot of support from the oscillators. It does look like this stock could cool off a little bit before it starts to make some higher highs. And if we were doing, like I said, a simple fib retracement on this, I would probably look up at that 12 zone next. You want to look at the history, price action correlation, same thing. Last time we were down here around $8, straight up, right to 12 bucks. Same thing over here. You know, you're up at 12 bucks, straight down, back to this zone, straight up, straight up, straight down, straight up, straight down. And that's important because once we get some confirmation here, you could very well see that happen again. Yeah, Nomadic, man. I've been talking about Nomadic for a while. It got boring for a little bit, but it's back at it. Nomadic is back at it. Let me see. SKLZ. It's the next one I see here. Guys, I'm just going in order. I'm not trying to pick favorites on any of these. Let me just make sure. SKLZ, that's, yeah, I'm assuming that's the stock you're looking for here. Well, you can't say you're not in a value area on this one. You know, as far as price history, right? You've got this candle high close back here, July 17th, 2020. That was last year. After this big run up in February, you came back down. After breaking that resistance, you came back down, and now you tested it again as support, old resistance, new support. And not only that, but after that initial reaction, you came back down and you did not come back down and test it again, which shows me you're making higher lows, which is accumulation. That means more market participants own this asset. And, you know, in a bullish condition, that's kind of what you'd want to see. You know, you would want to see a demand line for this asset starting to go up. You know, you wouldn't want to see it come back down and make lower lows. You know, if it continues to make higher lows like this, and you know what, same thing, I kind of like, that's a little, it almost got some XABCD stuff coming on, and this right here would that's kind of what you'd want to look for, right? You know, if that was a standard harmonic, you'd want to see an initial reaction to the upside, come back down and retest as support, which is your confirmation low. And the best thing you can see is when it comes back down for the confirmation low, you make that higher low. Looking at SKLZ on the daily, you are attempting to build some positive momentum on the MACD. And then on the RSI, same thing. You got a spring. You got a little bit towards overbought territory. And then you came back down, and just like you would with support and resistance, you sprung, came back down, and you retested the bottom of this at about 30 on the RSI, which before was resistance. Same idea. So I like this one. I want to look at the 4 hour here quick though. It gives you a, yeah, I mean the 4 hour, the oscillators here, you know, this, it looks like you had some bearish divergence on the MACD. You know, that's kind of indecision. You know, you're building positive momentum, you're waning, and right now it looks like it's waning. And it looks like, you know, May 7th, we had this high candle wick high at about 1665. It's kind of the zone you're in again right now. So if I was looking for a trade on SKLZ, I would want to see it break above this, right? This area looks like it's been tested or respected multiple times. You got resistance, support, 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 resistance. So that's kind of going to be the zone you want to break above. And if I was looking at targets on the upside, you know, just real quick here, you know, you've got this high back here in December with another one right after it. You know, that 21.50, 22.85, you know, that could very well be, I would probably look at 21.59 as a target. If you do continue to make higher lows on this asset, and if we were doing a Fibonacci retracement, this same thing, your 236 on a Fibonacci retracement is going to put you at about 20 bucks. The 382 would put you at about 25. And looking at that zone, it looks like you've got some support acted as resistance back here. That could be a potential target too there at 25. That's one I would definitely keep an eye on. You even got this reaction low here on the 4 hour, almost looks like a shark, small shark harmonic. I could take a closer look here. This is, yeah, XA. Yeah, I like this. You got this little shark here at the PCZ of possibly a bigger XABCD pattern. And if we were looking at targets on the shark, you'd be looking at A and C at about 19 and 21 bucks, just like we were talking about earlier. Those would be the targets. But again, you do want to get above this 1657 zone there on SKLZ. Okay, copper, let me take a look at that one real quick. Tesla, Raz, I'll take a look at that one too. That's one I had popped up here at the beginning of the stream, but I never took a look at it. We're on the daily chart here for copper. And if we're looking at the MACD, you know, you have been losing positive momentum on the MACD, coming back down. You got this little baby histogram, negative histogram forming on the MACD, which leads me to believe we might cool down a little bit. We are at the top of this daily zone, this momentum indicator I've got going. I wouldn't be surprised if it comes back down, maybe tests. You've got this candle close high at 27.95 over here, and it's been choppy up above that. I wouldn't be surprised if it comes back down and retests, whether it's that 27.95 or the 28.51 zone. It looks like that one did get retested, so maybe not. On the 4 hour chart though, the 4 hour chart doesn't look as bad. I thought we might have had, yeah, I mean, arguably you've got the price making higher lows. At the same time, you've got the MACD doing the opposite, making lower lows, and that's not classic bullish divergence, but it is a continuation divergence. This is hidden bullish divergence. And it looks like you've got it on both the MACD and the RSI, which would imply, you know, you'd like to see some positive momentum, or at least this negative momentum continue to wane. But that would imply that at this zone here at about, you know, 28.92, you're going to see a continuation of the bullish trend that it's in right now. And if you really wanted to get you know, you do kind of have this reaccumulation stuff going on here. You know, you almost got this rounding bottom. And if we were looking at that as a valid rounding bottom, I mean, it's kind of pushing it. But what you'd look for is, and it looks like it hit the measured move. We pull a fib retracement on this. You know, your next zone up, your next target up on the fib retracement would be that 1618. You know, arguably you did hit it May 10th, about a week or so ago. Above that, I'd probably look at 31. That would be the 100% measured move of, yeah, I got that right. That would be the 100% measured move of this retracement here. But copper, like a lot of commodities, like a lot of precious metals, Vale, which, however you pronounce that one, that's one that I've been doing great in since last year. That's a no problem, brother. I appreciate you coming through. And like I said, I'm going to try to get to the rest of these as many as I can. We're just about short on time. If I missed, you know, somebody's ticker, if you want to drop me a tweet or message me on Twitter at Trade Nomadic, you know, I'd be happy to go over a few of these for you guys. I'm probably going to be doing this for the rest of the night. Tesla, I'll bring that one up real quick. I kind of lost track of what I was saying, but Vale, V-A-L-E, is another one I like. It's an iron, nickel, lithium play. It's been doing real good. Tesla here is, we're kind of in this zone between, you know, these old highs up here at 889, 880s. But we came back down after that correction, and we bounced off of this old wick high back from last summer. And, you know, I thought we were going to start to make some progress here on Tesla. You kind of had this bullish dragon formation here. Oops. But it came back down, and Tesla, between the Bitcoin stuff, between everything going on with him, and it's been a bumpy road for Tesla for a minute here. But if you look, you know, after making these lows back here, we have not been able to come back down that low yet. Not to say it's not going to happen just yet. RSI is nice and low down here after back testing the spring on that, on the 4 hour. Positive momentum is waning a little bit, but you do have, no, that's convergence. There's no real indicator just yet on the 4 hour that it's going to make some higher highs. You'd want to see some sort of, whether it's hidden bullish divergence or classic bullish divergence, that indicates that you're going to get some relief to the upside. You don't really have that on the 4 hour. Looking at this daily chart here, though, however, if I could get. I mean, you're just about at the point where you could make an argument on the daily, though. I was gonna say it almost looked like we had some bullish divergence forming here. You've got the negative momentum waning, but at the same time, this price action technically is making. Oh no, I did make a mistake here. You got the price action making lower lows, and your MACD is going up. This is classic bullish divergence forming. It's developing still. I'd like to see some confirmation, you know, before I'm not saying let's go all in on Tesla, but you do kind of have the argument beginning, whether it's the bullish divergence or even bullish convergence would be a positive indicator for Tesla. And again, you are at a critical zone where it would make sense for Tesla to reverse. You know, this historically has been support and resistance down here before. He definitely, you know, a value zone coming off the high as well. I mean, you got a nice 35% correction off these highs in January. But I'd like to see how it plays out. Tesla's one I'm watching as well, because you have gotten this value zone, and if technically if we put in a double bottom here at 577, you know, two low or two bottoms at least, that would make me feel good about the stock. It does look like here on the daily, barely, but you are making minuscule higher lows. But at the same time, if you want to take a trade on Tesla, you do have easy to define risk to reward. You know, say you took a long position here, even if you were just riding out to this last resistance, you know, you got about 25% going up if we did retest. And then if you want to set up a position on Tesla, obviously I would stop out underneath 538 here, and that's putting you 5-to-1 risk to reward. You'd risk 5%, you could gain 25% or more, but I would look at this 700 zone as a potential area that people are going to take profits. I would probably go with this candle close at about 695. And again, if you're taking 5-to-1 risk to reward trades, if you're wrong and you get stopped out, you know, as long as you got consistent position sizing, it's going to happen. You're going to get trades. Even the best chart in the world will go wrong on you. You know, you're not going to be right every time, but that's why I always stress I like doing at least 3-to-1 with my trades. And if I took this trade on Tesla, the way I would approach it is, you know, if I get stopped out, I'm down 5%. What I would do, same thing like I said before, I would probably look down here. I don't expect this to happen, but if I was looking for a lower area of support on Tesla, you could very well come down to 440 here at the bottom of this initial impulse that we had in the fall. That would be my next area. What I would do is if I get stopped out of this, I would set up a trade down in this, you know, maybe some limit orders down in this area, again, having a stop underneath all that. And I would end up making up this 5% because I would be getting the stock at a lower price. And if we got a bounce off of this, even if it's just a relief rally to come back and retest this old support as resistance off of this, you know, I'd be making up my losses. And again, I think even down here, you're looking at you'd have to have some tight stops. That might not be a trade I would do ahead of time, but same thing. If this trade ends up stopping out and you end up getting 20% off this trade, well, that's the whole basis behind taking trades like that. You know, if you're right, you could be right just by flipping a coin. You could be right 50% of the time. And if you're right 50% of the time, if all your trades are 3-to-1, well, you're going to be doing great, because that essentially puts the odds in your favor. If you're right half the time, and one of those times you win 3x, and one of those times you lose 1x, you're still in the green. And it's definitely a strategy I always play with. You know, I don't want to risk 1-to-1, because if you're right half the time and you lose half the time, well, you're not going to be making any money, and you're just going to be wasting your time. And it also makes you be held accountable for your trades as well. I appreciate the follow. Thank you. TV, MGNI. If I got enough time for MGMI, they haven't kicked me out yet. We are on the daily here, and this is actually not just taking a quick look at it here. I do kind of like this because you've got a found support. I mean, this isn't the strongest area, but if you look back here in December, you got this nice impulse up, and then you came back down and you retested this 23.97 zone. Arguably, the stronger support would probably be at about 21.71. But you tested it, old resistance as support. You got this huge run up, and you've come back down and you retested it with this nice engulfing candle coming up off of it. And same thing, just barely. Since then, you've been making higher lows. And if we're looking at the MACD, it looks like you've got, well, you could look at it like this. It's going to be a stronger indicator if you're going from island to island without skipping over some of this chop in the middle. But you do have lower lows on this price here, and at the same time less negative momentum pulling this asset down, which would imply that, you know, you've got sellers are losing control at this zone. And as long as this negative momentum continues to wane and head towards, you know, some positive histogram islands, your RSI oversold, but it's curling back up, gaining strength. I do like MGNI, long as you stay above this little zone we got here between 21.71, and realistically, I wouldn't want to see it fall below 23.97, because you did get that strong reaction after testing it. You have tested it historically as support. And MGMI, this one, same thing. You got a couple of these. If we were looking for a harmonic formation, see, for this last D leg, ideally it could come, or not ideally, but it could come down to the 1618, which would put you, if we were looking at targets for this structure here, it would bring you right down to this candle high close. So I wouldn't rule that out. And we're on the daily. Real quick, I'll look here on the 4-hour chart. 4-hour chart, I mean, you don't have any bullish divergence down here, but you are making higher levels of positive momentum. The RSI is going up real nice. If we're looking at candlesticks here, you know, you've got these two highs, and then you've got this piercing line reversal candlestick. You know, you got this bearish candle coming down, and then this one just engulfed just about the entirety of the previous candle on the 4-hour chart. On the daily, not so much, but yeah, you might be putting in a nice double bottom here on the 4-hour. So anything above, I would say anything above 26, you're good. If you lose control of that 26 zone, I wouldn't be surprised if you end up making if you end up coming back down and retesting this 21 zone. That's definitely something to keep an eye on. But like I said, the RSI on this one on the daily has plenty of room to run, and you are waning on the daily, at least for on the MACD. But again, that wouldn't mean that you can't come back down and retest this zone until you really start to gain some traction. I would like it a lot more if we broke above 27.53. That would give me a little more confirmation that we're going to be seeing some higher prices on this asset. So just thought, if it does start to break down, I would be keeping an eye on that 21.71 zone. A butterfly spread. If you're talking about this would be a harmonic, and this would be a shark here. No, butterfly would be a 127. Yeah, you wouldn't want to see a butterfly. Butterfly is going to be 127 retracement. If it was no, it's not typical for a shark either. Shark's going to be an 886 to 113. Arguably, you know, if you moved your A point down, you know, this huge impulse up might have been momentum driven, and then this might have been your actual swing high, harmonically speaking. If that was the case, this would be a shark, and the shark can range down here. You're going to want to see a shark is between the 886 and the 113. Yeah, so a shark could potentially bring you lower than that. But it does look, you know, you've got this wick down right to this point. A lot of the times with harmonics, that's kind of going to be the giveaway. You know, if you see just a crazy wick out of nowhere and then buying pressure immediately at that's, you know, that's the initial reaction. You get the reaction up, you come back down, you confirm support in that zone, and then that's when you would come up. Generally speaking, with harmonics, you're going to test these A and C levels at the top of the range that you're in. I think that's what you're talking about. If I'm wrong, you can correct me here. AHT, I'm sorry, Fran, I didn't see that one before. Ashford Hospitality Trust. Well, just right off the bat, I don't like the history of this asset because it's just over and over. You keep making lower lows, lower lows. You do kind of look like you put in, you know, back here in the fall, you've got this low, you have a higher low here. And then if you were looking at a demand line, or I'm sorry, a supply line, you know, looks like you're trying to break out of this supply line coming down, right? And if we look here on the 4-hour, problem is it almost looks like you fell back inside. There could have been a false breakout here. But regardless of that supply line, looking at the MACD on the 4-hour chart, this positive momentum is starting to wane a little bit, which would indicate you might start seeing this price correct a little bit further. Same thing with the RSI. The RSI was, as of today, as of yesterday and today, it overbought, and it's starting to make some lower lows on the RSI, which would imply that this asset is losing a little bit of its momentum. And if we're just looking at this little zone here, we've got this nice inflection point at about 283. We broke above that with some heavy volume. It got rejected, trying to come back up above it. And just like the other assets we were talking about earlier, you might see that, especially looking at the 4-hour oscillators, you might see this price come back down just to retest once again that 283 zone. I can hop on a lower time scale, see if there's anything that really sticks out, but I would say as long as you stay above $3, I think you're okay. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing screaming at me right now that says this asset's ready to make higher highs. But again, as long as you hold up in this zone we were looking at, about $3, I think you're okay. But you might want to retest that 294 to $3 zone one more time, I think, before it goes higher. I'd definitely be, we covered, when I first started streaming with the guys here at Benzinga, we did cover just real basic information on how to identify harmonics, the different type of harmonics, you know, how you would actually take an actionable trade against them. And that's something I'm not against touching down on a little bit deeper. I'm actually working on a potential guest for one of the next streams, hopefully, who actually patented a lot of these harmonic patterns. It's somebody I'm going to try reaching out to that would be great to have a nice conversation about that stuff live on the show here to kind of help everybody understand, you know, the price movements behind the different types of harmonics, how to play them. And again, but when it boils down, my strategy, it's not based on one thing. When I'm looking at assets, I always want to see a collection of variables, right? I want to see a deep retrace. I want to see divergence. On both oscillators, I usually like using the MACD and the RSI mainly. And I want to see a bullish divergence. If you could find that happening at an old support line or an old resistance after a deep retrace, you know, that gives you an indication that you're not only at an area where you'd likely see at least a bounce or a turnaround, but the sellers have lost control, and that's, bullish divergence implies that the buyers are coming in. The sellers have lost control, and now it's a buyer's market, a momentum shifting structure, like a harmonic. That's where you'll find a lot of these harmonic patterns. After a sell-off, you'll get these harmonics that form, and they're the momentum shifting structures that basically show you I'm trying to think of the best way to describe it. It shows you that the momentum is changing. After a sell-off, you're not only getting the asset at a deep retrace, which means you're getting it at a value area, but if you're buying it at support, it's easy to define, your risk. If it breaks the support, that's where your stop loss would be. And again, with the divergence, one of the things I like to look for is reversal patterns on the candlesticks as well. Whether it's a piercing line reversal, you want as many things, as many variables agreeing with your argument. Look at it like you're a lawyer. You're trying to convince the jury, with your facts, with the different variables you've got. You want as much of that stuff. That's your evidence. That's you're presenting a case. You're like, not only is my asset, at a deep retrace, it's sold off, so I'm getting a deal. It's down 30%. That you've got yourself a deal. It's at support. Historically, this asset finds support in this zone. When you've got bullish divergence, well, this asset was selling off, but now it looks like it's stopping. And same thing on the RSI. You want to find the RSI in oversold levels, especially if you do have bullish divergence showing on the RSI. Same thing with the MACD. And that's something that's the argument's starting to present itself on Bitcoin. That's one of the first things we went over today. And it's just not there yet, especially with a lot of FUD going on. But I do like, not only did Coinbase announce that they are, that they're potentially doing the same thing MicroStrategy did. They raise money, they sell their debt, and it's redeemable in 2026 with convertible senior notes. And so potentially that's really bullish for Bitcoin. If Coinbase is about to buy $1.2 billion in Bitcoin, you're going to see it. You're going to see a reaction. And you've also got, I saw Sony released a patent for, it looks like they're getting into the space as far as some electronic gambling or electronic betting. I'm not real familiar with what they've got going on, but there's a very, very big possibility if they're going to run, run services for gambling that involve crypto buying and payments and stuff like that. They're probably going to be holding some on their balance sheet as well, or holding it, period. So yeah, as far as there's no safe moon on TradingView. That's not really, but all the power to you. It's not really something I would put my money into. That's not my particular style of trading, but to each their own, by all means. Just, for stuff like Safe Moon and, some of these other coins that are being hyped up right now, just know and understand, what you're risking if you're taking trades like that. I would never go all in on anything. Definitely not on Safe Moon. Just, it's all about reward to risk. If you want to risk a little bit to potentially make some, just don't be, you got to understand it might go to zero as well. You know, there's nothing really backing that stuff other than other people. I see you, brother. I think we're out of time, aren't we? Oh, I'm seeing you. I'm not hearing you, though. I've got no audio feed coming in from you. I don't know if you're muted or if I muted something on accident.
Oh, no, I was just muted. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I got you.
All right. Yeah, I had just had myself on mute.
And I saw that, Clyde. I don't mean to interrupt you. Palantir definitely is talking about Bitcoin on their balance sheet. And that might be something that stock's needed for some time.
something to kickstart it.
Right. You know, hey, if it's working for other companies, man, I don't see why it wouldn't work for some of these, you know, companies moving forward.
Yep. All right. Well, yeah, here, let me post your Twitter one more time. And that way, if anyone watching has any more questions for Trade Nomadic, you can hit him up on Twitter.
Yeah, I appreciate that, guys. I post a lot of these charts and ideas. Right now, I've kind of been holding back with crypto just because I want to see Bitcoin gain its feet before I post anything, and you get some confirmation first. You know, it's better if there's not a good trade. I'd rather just sit the sidelines until it's game time again.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough with all these altcoins going crazy to know what's going on. So it's better to just sit in cash, wait on the sideline until you really find something that you think is going to be good long term.
Right. All it takes is Bitcoin to throw a tantrum, and then, you know, the trades go out the window. So if it's something long term, you just buy the dip. You know,
right?
Space it out. If you buy the dip, just preferably it doesn't keep dipping more after. But yeah, as soon as Bitcoin gains its feet and we got some confirmation, I'll have some new charts up for just about everything. If you guys want to check me out, I'd be happy to have you. And again, I appreciate you guys having me. I appreciate the likes.
Thank
and the
you.
love and
Thank you. You know, you're the one giving us all this valuable information.
Hey, I'm happy to do it.
All right, well,
it keeps my brain sharp when I got to actually vocalize all this stuff. You know, a lot of this stuff I don't think twice when I'm looking at a chart, but having to, you know, definitely helps my train of thought. Keeps it moving. Keeps everything greased up.
Beautiful. All right, man. Well, we'll talk soon, and we'll see you next week.
I appreciate it, brother. Have a good night.
You do the same. Bye-bye.